Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. Frozen pizza, truly one of the staples of a broke boy diet. But why limit yourself to only what Tony and the Red Baron can cook up? We can do better. First, walk on past the usual suspects and see if your store has frozen dough. This is the canvas upon which you'll paint your pizza masterpiece. If you can't find the frozen ones, try the ones in the pasta aisle. For cheese, there's only one way to go. Whole milk mozzarella, thin slice fresh from the deli. It makes a perfect sheet of mozz on your pizza and no mess from shredding cheese. Now you can go the trad route and make a quick and tasty red sauce by combining whole tomatoes, some oregano and red pepper, salt, and a little bit of sugar. Get all that blended together. Saute the garlic on medium heat before adding the rest of the ingredients, then stir constantly for 20 minutes until the sauce is thick and rich. Never stop stirring unless you want your kitchen to look like a crime scene. Then lay down your sauce, and remember, a little bit goes a long way. Shout out to Jessica Simpson. Top with the toppings of your choice and throw into an oven as hot as you can get it, at least 500 degrees for about 8 minutes or until everything looks gold and bubbly. Now the beauty of this is you can make any pizza you can think of, but if you want something really amazing, try the Continental. Brush down your dough, add mozz, kielbasa sausage, some goat cheese, and throw in the oven. When it's finished, top with arugula and enjoy. It's savory, tangy, and 100% Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals, leaving you with just meals. Today we're going to talk about chicken, specifically why it sucks. Most store-bought chicken is bland and flavorless, which has a lot to do with our country's obsession with big breasts. And by that I mean, over the years factory farms have bred chickens to grow plumper, faster, and it's led to blander poultry. But rather than drowning in all kinds of spices, there's a much easier way to get tenderness and flavor back into your chicken. Enter the brine. Just take some water, some aromatics like garlic, bay leaves, herbes de Provence, and arbol chilies, some salt, some sweet stuff like white or brown sugar or even cola syrup. Today I had some apple juice I needed to get rid of, so into the brine it goes. And bring it to a boil and let it cook down into a syrupy broth over a few minutes. Once you've infused all those flavors together, pour it into a container full of a few cups of ice to cool it down. Once it comes down to room temperature, it's ready to use. A whole chicken might take a day to brine, but small things like breasts or thighs only need about 2 hours. Be careful though. If you make your brine too aromatic or leave your chicken in for too long, let's just say there is too much of a good thing. So keep it simple, keep it sweet and salty, and you're on your way to some delicious chicken. That's Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. Today we're cooking up Jaeger Schnitzel, a dish that checks all the boxes of being easy to make, delicious to eat, and a golden opportunity to do a Schwarzenegger impression.
I would have Schnitzel flown in for the cast and crew. Carl Weathers, he ate the Schnitzel. John McTiernan ate the Schnitzel.
Start out by slicing your meat thin and pounding it out. You can use pork or chicken, but getting it thin as possible is non-negotiable. Let your cutlets brine in the fridge for about 2 hours to lock in tender, juicy flavor. After that, dry them off and prep an egg and some Italian breadcrumbs into 2 separate containers. Put the breadcrumbs into a tub you can seal up. Dunk each cutlet in egg first, then drop it into the tub, seal it up, and shake it like a Polaroid picture. Pan fry them in just about a centimeter of oil, and for a perfect fry, keep your oil temperature right at around 300 degrees. A $10 instant thermometer makes this way easier. Let your schnitzels keep warm in the oven while we prep the real star of the show, the mushroom gravy. For this, you're going to need 2 boxes of fresh mushrooms, heavy cream, and 2 packets of Maggie's Schnitzel Mix, non-negotiable. The final non-negotiable is chopping up your mushrooms super fine, then letting them cook all their water out before adding in the mix and your heavy cream. For plating, you want to serve this with some roasted potatoes or fries, with the gravy on the side. You want to create as many opportunities for dipping as possible. Jaeger Schnitzel with mushroom gravy. Utterly simple and utterly Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. Listen up, Joker. Today we're making Tonkatsu Curry. So good it'll make you think you're at Cafe LeBlanc. Crunchy, savory, and a little sweet is about as comfy as comfort food gets. Process. Let's get it. First, let's saute some shallot and garlic. Next, grab a block of Japanese curry mix and break it up into a pot. Add water and a little bit of beef better than bouillon to take the umami flavor into the stratosphere. Now, a curry like this, you can put just about any starchy veg you want, but in our house we go for sweet potatoes. Chop them up into chunks and throw them in early so they can cook down while you do everything else. Let that simmer while we focus on the katsu. For the katsu, start by pounding out thin cutlets of pork or chicken. Today we're using pork we brined up earlier. If you ain't up on brines, check out my video on brining. It's like a cheat code. Now we set up the dredge operation. Tub 1, egg lightly beaten. Tub 2, resealable and full of panko breadcrumbs. We're gonna go egg dunk, breadcrumb shake, onto a baking sheet, and into the freezer to chill out while we make something a little unique. Breakfast sausage katsu. Slice up your sausage and use parchment paper to flatten it into patties, then stick them in the freezer so they firm up before dredging them in breadcrumbs and pan frying in oil. A few minutes before serving, add some chopped carrots and frozen peas into the curry, and for advanced velvety texture, stir in a few packs of gelatin powder. Slice up your katsu thin and serve with plenty of rice to soak up all that delicious curry. Now that's Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals, and you take DoorDash off the home screen. Chili dogs, the preferred meal of Sonic the Hedgehog, and for good reason. They're a quick and easy meal that slaps harder than Will Smith. But if there's one dish that you can upgrade in every single way, it's this one. Process, let's get it. First, we're going to talk about chili. If you've had as many cans of Wolf brand chili as I have, you need some variety in your life, and some fiber. So we're going to make chili from scratch, with beans, because real chili has beans. Fight me. Turn on your burner to its highest setting and give 2 poblano peppers a good char. If you don't have a gas range, put your oven on broil and put your veg as close to the heat as you can. Once you see a char around all sides, take it off and seal it up and let the peel steam itself off. After 10 minutes, scrape it down with a fork. Chop those up and set them aside. Start sauteing some onion and garlic, and on a separate skillet, throw down a pound of 80-20 ground beef. Cook that on medium heat until the water is fully evaporated and you start seeing crispy brown kernels of beef. Next, combine the poblanos with 2 cans of crushed tomatoes, the beef, some water, and as much better than bouillon as it says on the jar, and let that simmer down for an hour or so. With about 5 minutes left, add in the beans. Next up, dogs. There's absolutely nothing wrong with a snappy dog from Nathan's, but let's level it up with these hot beef sausages. Slice a few cuts into the top to vent, and prep a steam operation to cook them up. If you got an Instant Pot, you can use the rack in the steam setting. If not, broil them in the oven on a wire rack until they start splitting. These sausages only take about 10 minutes before they're ready to enjoy. Last, buns. Treat yourself to a hearty pretzel roll and use the steamer to get it nice and soft before building your dogs. Generously ladle on your chili and enjoy with a Tums. Now that's Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals, and you help Huntrix restore the Hanmun. Ramen noodles, the foundation of any good struggle meal, but with just a few additions, your standard cup of soup can get real bougie real quick. So let's do exactly that, with a little something I like to call soda pop ramyun. First, cube up a shoulder roast and toss with some salt and oil and stick in the oven at 450 degrees for 20 minutes. Once that's done, grab your slow cooker and let's build a roast. Add the beef, some spring onions, sliced ginger, mushrooms, some kiwi and Asian pear, and fill with Coca-Cola until the beef is submerged. I like to throw in black and white peppercorns and some gochujang, but you must add in a tablespoon of soy sauce and mirin. Put that on low and slow and give it the day to cook. Even better if it's overnight. When you're ready to eat, or you just can't wait any longer, ladle a good amount of the jus from the roast into a skillet and set it on medium heat. Add in a little water and your soup packets and stir before laying in your noodles. With the skillet, the soup will cook down to a thick sauce by the time the noodles are done. Lay in some of the beef and a little more jus, and top with green onion and sesame seed, and a fried egg. Now that's Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. My wife says I need to get more greens in my diet, so today we're going to make a Cobb Salad, which meets her criteria of technically being a salad and meets my criteria of letting me eat an entire farm in one meal. Process, let's get it. Brine up some chicken breast and stick in the fridge for a few hours. Prep a little bit of red onion. Next, lay down some bacon on a wire rack. Set your oven to 350 degrees and pop the bacon in while it preheats, and then for 20 minutes after it comes up to temp. Chop and set them aside. Cook your chicken breast in a large skillet with about a tablespoon of oil until you get some good color and reach 160 degrees internal. Then wrap up in aluminum foil to rest. After 10 minutes of resting, chop and set them aside. Next, get an egg boil operation going and cook your eggs for 10 minutes before dropping in ice. Slice and set them aside in the fridge. Open up an avocado and carefully cut into slices and set aside in the fridge. We're almost there. Finally, chop up a few romaine hearts and make a bed of greens in your bowl. You know what time it is? It's cobberin' time. Bring together your chicken, bacon, onion, avocado, and for bonus crunch, add some sweet corn in there too. I like mine with homemade ranch dressing, while my wife prefers disgusting blue cheese. But freshly cracked black pepper is non-negotiable. Cobb Salad. Quote-unquote healthy, and quote-unquote Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. Today we're making chicken Cordon Bleu, a dish that has somehow managed to seem fancy despite it basically being a French KFC double down. Process, let's get it. First things first, we gotta get our chicken breast butterflied and as thin as possible. Slice open down the middle and open it up like a book before laying down some parchment paper and whacking away until it's like a thin chicken pancake. Look at that. Next, into the brine for at least 2 hours. After that, let's lay them out flat on a sheet of plastic wrap and add a slice of black forest ham and some Swiss cheese. Use Gruyere if you're bougie. Now, using the plastic wrap, tightly fold over until we get a chicken cordon burrito. Then, grab the ends of the plastic wrap and helicopter it until you get a tight little chub pack. Into the freezer these go to chill out for about 20 minutes. Set up your dredge operation with a pan of flour, pan of beaten egg, and a tub of breadcrumbs. Now, you can use the $2 breadcrumbs from the store, or you can make your own with a few loaves of bread, some garlic, and butter. Process. Let's get it again. Leave out the butter to soften, then press a few cloves of garlic into it. Then whip it together. Leave it out to stay soft and spreadable. Open up your bread loaves, spread on the compound butter, and stick in your oven preheated to 350 for 20 minutes. After they finish cooking, let them rest for about 10 minutes, then slice them up to add to your food processor. If you don't have a food processor, a big knife and a little patience will do just fine. I've done both. Pour these guys into a tub and back to the dredge. We want to roll our cordon burritos in plain flour first, then beaten egg, then finally in the breadcrumbs before we pan fry in a few centimeters of oil at 300 degrees. We're going this low because we only want to cook the breading right now. After we see a good color, we add them back onto a rack and into the oven for 350 for 15 minutes to ensure everything gets cooked through. While that's cooking, we need to get saucy. Combine flour, vegetable bouillon, heavy cream, and whisk vigorously before adding some pepper. Slice up your cordon bleu burritos and add some sauce. According to my wife, this is Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. After paying way too much for a delivery from Tarka, I decided to give chicken tikka masala a try at home. And it turns out it's remarkably cheap and easy. Process, let's get it. Chicken tikka masala is basically just combining and simmering together 3 ingredients: an onion and tomato paste, chicken thighs in a yogurt marinade, and a spice blend to bring out that earthy, herby flavor. So let's start with the spice blend by combining garam masala, cumin, paprika, turmeric, and ground white pepper together. Next, let's prep our chicken thighs in a bowl with a cup of full-fat plain Greek yogurt, 4 cloves of garlic, some grated ginger, some lime juice, half of your spice blend, and a teaspoon of salt and half a teaspoon of sugar. Give that a good massage. And here's a tip: chop your thighs first so you don't have to do it later like I did. Set that in your fridge for at least 8 hours. Come on back to make your tomato paste with 2 Roma tomatoes and half an onion, blitzed into a puree. We're going to cook off all the moisture in this, so the finer you can get it before you cook, the better. Throw that on the skillet and cook on medium-low, stirring constantly. Once it's good and caramelized, add in some more grated ginger and garlic, some tomato paste, and the rest of your spice blend. The result should be a clay-like paste that you can scrape up and set aside. For the chicken, lay the pieces out on a wire rack. Scoop up and reserve the remaining yogurt marinade. Set your oven on the top broil setting and get your oven rack as close to the fire as you can. We're going to broil our chicken for about 7 minutes on each side or until you see darkened char. Collect and let's finish the dish by combining everything together. Into your skillet goes your reserved yogurt marinade, some chicken bouillon, your tomato paste, and a few dashes of Worcestershire sauce, the chicken, and some more tomato. Stir to combine and simmer down for at least 30 minutes. Once you have something thick, rich, and aromatic, serve with basmati rice and a dash of heavy cream. Oh, and some naan bread. Chicken tikka masala. Surprisingly easy and surprisingly Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. Caesar salad. It's undeniable that it tastes great, but it possibly contains the weirdest combination of ingredients available. Capers? What the hell are those? Little green salt beans? Anchovies? Egg yolk? Fancy mustard? Yes, all that goes into a Caesar salad. Process, let's get it. First, let's get our chicken brined for at least 2 hours, then dry it off, cook it, and dice it up. Next, let's make some garlic bread with a couple hoagie rolls. Soften a stick of butter in a bowl and press in 6 cloves of garlic and then mix in some oregano. Wrap up and chill in the fridge, and you just made compound butter. Look at you. Spread that on your loaves and stick in the oven at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. Now we build the dressing by chopping fine a few tablespoons of the capers plus 3 anchovies before adding to a bowl and combining with 3 cloves of garlic, Dijon mustard, 3 dashes of Worcestershire sauce, juice of half a lemon, an egg yolk, and then about a half a cup of oil. Extra points if you use the oil that the capers and anchovies came in. Whisk that while adding pinches of grated Parmigiano Reggiano until it looks dark and delicious. Now let's build some Caesar salad boats by setting down your toasted garlic bread, then lay on some chopped romaine hearts, followed by more parm, your fresh dressing, and then lay on your diced chicken. Caesar boat complete. Is this in any way better than a regular Caesar salad? Not really. But it is Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. Chicken pot pie. I'm willing to bet that not a single person watching this has had a chicken pot pie that didn't come from a freezer case. Which is a real shame, because a pot pie is a hearty, savory delight that if done correctly, looks way fancier than the actual effort you put into it. In the baking section, let's grab a pack of these little disposable loaf pans and a pack of pie crusts. Back at home, prep some chicken in a particularly sugary brine. The added sugar will lead to more caramelization and a better color on your chicken. Plus, it'll give us some good fond to build our filling off of. Cook your chicken and then pull it once you've got a good color and wrap it in aluminum foil and stick it in the oven to rest on warm. Now you'll deglaze the pan with some chicken bouillon before adding in a half a cup of flour, half a cup of water, a quarter cup of heavy cream, and a quarter cup of whole milk. Once that's come together, add in a half a cup each of frozen peas and carrots and corn and stir to combine. Reserve the sauce and let's get to making some pies. Butter up your tins, and for these loaf pans, the easiest thing is to just cut out shapes and then press them in, starting with the bottom, then working your way around and pinching down the rims as you go along. And for the tops, cut the remaining dough into strips before making a loose weave. Now we put it all together by pouring in the filling, then laying the weaves on top and trimming off the excess dough. Pop those in the oven at 350 for 45 minutes or until everything looks golden brown. Chicken pot pie. What a lovely way to say Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. Today, Unemplourmet goes Hawaiian with Loco Moco, a dish that is dead simple but will fill your belly without dropping a bag. Process, let's get it. Start off by chopping half an onion. Next, take 8 ounces of mushrooms and chop half of them fine while slicing the other half. Set all that aside and let's make some meat. Grab a pound of 80-20 ground beef and toss in a bowl along with some Worcestershire sauce, some black pepper, garlic powder, a handful of breadcrumbs, and a pinch of salt. Mix that up to combine. Next, get some parchment paper and split your pound of beef into 2 patties. When you form your patties, press a divot into the middle and build up the walls. This will help them keep their shape as they cook down. Lay your patties in the pan on medium heat with a little oil with the divot facing up, and then leave them alone until you can see the top is now flat. That means it's time to flip them. Look at that. Finish up your burgers and set them in the oven on warm before heading back to the pan to make our gravy. Toss in some onion and the finely chopped mushrooms and let that absorb up all the beef grease and flavor by whisking constantly. Once that's picked up some color, add a little dash of Worcestershire, black pepper, and about a cup of water. From there, add in beef bouillon. Whisk that in before finally adding the sliced mushrooms. Let that cook for another 5 minutes and it's good to go. Lastly, we build our Loco Mocos by setting the burgers on top of a bed of white rice, then add that gorgeous sauce and a fried egg, and what the hell, some more gravy. Loco Moco. With a little beef, rice, and some mushroom, you're just a few steps away from Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. BLTs, bacon, lettuce, tomato. I remember the first BLT I ever had, made by my grandfather. As he built one for each of us, he told me just how delicious the combination of bacon, lettuce, tomato, and mayo would be in between 2 slices of toast. As he handed it to me with a smile, I took my first bite, and that's when I realized It was bland, wet, runny, and I've hated BLTs ever since. But since I now have a platform, I decided to make my own version of a BLT. A better BLT. Process. Let's get it. Instead of just 2 strips of bacon, we're making a bacon weave that goes in the oven at 350 for 45 minutes to an hour. Next, we're replacing the mayo with an avocado spread with shallot and red pepper, fresh lime juice, and some salt and pepper. Mix that up and set it aside. Now here's a food hack you might not know about. You're allowed to season and cook the tomatoes. Well, I'm allowed. I'm allowing myself. Hit them with some salt, pepper, and olive oil, and add to your 350-degree oven for 15 minutes. And since my toaster seems to be producing a demonic amount of smoke, let's put the bread in a sandwich press instead. Lay down the bread, then the spread, the bacon, the tomatoes, some crisp butter leaf lettuce, and finally add some more of that spread. Believe me, the ratio of easy to delicious here is off the charts. The better BLT. Try one today. It's Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. I'm gonna be honest with y'all on this one. Tuna salad is perfect. A couple cans of tuna, a little mayo, some pickle and onion, and you nailed it. So let's not put our foot through a Rembrandt here, and let's just make a tuna melt the best way we know how. Process. Let's get it. A good tuna salad is all about prepping good ingredients. Better ingredients, better tuna salad, Papa John's. So let's chop shallot instead of onion, fresh pickles instead of relish, and I had some leftover red pepper, so in that goes too. And now the star of the show, the tuna. If you're like me, you grew up draining your tuna by squeezing the hell out of the can, which is simultaneously time-consuming and less effective. But you're an adult now, and you own a strainer, so use it. Mix up all the ingredients with a good dollop of mayo, about a half cup, until you get the consistency you like. Finally, to take this from tuna salad to tuna melt, let's put a couple of slices of provolone cheese in between our bread, and throw in your sandwich press, or an oven set to 350, until the cheese is good and melty. Now open it up like a book and build your sando by adding the tuna, then some crisp lettuce, and some sliced avocado. I'm still in my roasted tomato era, so those go in too, before closing it up, toasting for another 2 minutes, and then slicing to enjoy. The tuna melt. Make it your own, and you've made Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. Scrambled eggs on toast, the national dish of men trying to win over their spouses. Whether it be a birthday breakfast in bed or a hastily made request for forgiveness, that combination of soft, creamy eggs, bread, and bacon is a decorated wingman, and we salute you. Process. Let's get it. While scrambled eggs are a simple dish, it's important to time your cook so you're serving everything at the perfect temperature. And that means saving the scrambled eggs until the very end. But we will prep them by cracking about 4 eggs and whisking until they're well combined. Then prep some bacon on a wire rack and add to a 350-degree oven right as the oven starts preheating. This way, the bacon cooks low and slow and renders off the fat while getting crispy, but not too crispy. Once your oven hits 350, cook for another 20 minutes and then set aside. Now for this next step, you can use a sandwich press if you've got one, or you can use that same 350-degree oven, or even a skillet on low heat. But you want to make a little grilled cheese sandwich out of 2 big slices of hearty sourdough and the melty cheese of your choice. Once the cheese is melted and the bread is toasted, maybe 6 to 7 minutes, open up the grilled cheese and set it on your plate. Now it's egg time, and this won't take long. Set your skillet on low to medium heat, add some butter, add your eggs, and then immediately keep them moving. Every scrape is pulling up essentially finished scrambled egg, so be careful not to cook too long. From start to finish on these eggs, they were on the heat for 100 seconds. That's it. From there, add them to the toast and top with some of your bacon and a sprinkling of chives. Now that is forgiveness on a plate, aka Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. Mac and cheese, a fan favorite for people on the grind. And while there's no replacement for the stuff in the blue box, it hasn't stopped people from trying. Suddenly, everyone has a gourmet mac and cheese recipe in their back pocket just waiting for Thanksgiving or a barbecue. But here at Unemplourmet,
ain't nobody got time for that.
So what do? Same thing Kraft does. A little thing called sodium citrate. Sodium citrate is a preservative that stops cheese proteins from breaking down under heat, which means any cheese you add it to basically turns into Velveeta. Armed with this knowledge, let's make some mac and cheese. First, prep your cheese. For this recipe, we're going to use Gouda and mild cheddar. To measure out a perfect 226 grams, just line the two blocks up, cut the ratio you want, and then swap them. Grate those up and set them aside. And if you're liking what we're making here at Unemplourmet, give us a like and a subscribe, will ya? Then, get a wide pot or skillet and boil up some water before adding your macaroni. Let that cook for about 10 minutes before draining. But, let's reserve all that pasta water. Now, just like the blue box, add the macaroni back to the pot, give it a knob of butter, and then about 2/3 of a cup of whole milk. Then add your grated cheeses and 4 grams of sodium citrate. That works out to about a teaspoon. From there, you can fold in everything on low heat and watch your mac and cheese come together. Add pasta water back in a drizzle at a time to increase the creaminess. Now, it's perfect like this. But if you want to go the extra mile, pour everything into a baking dish, set your oven to 425, and top with a layer of bacon and breadcrumbs before baking for 20 minutes. The end result will be cheesy, hearty, and comes together in less than an hour. And that's grade A Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. Lately I've been getting these Arayes videos in my feed, so I decided to try it out. And while the spices and process might seem intimidating, there is so much juicy flavor here, it's too good not to make yourself. And I know what you might be saying, Marshall, that's not Unemplourmet. To which I say, shush, you want to learn how to make it or not? First, let's get started on your dry spices, which is going to be a half teaspoon cumin, half teaspoon coriander, teaspoon of paprika, a tablespoon of baharat seasoning, around a quarter teaspoon of freshly ground pepper, and a teaspoon of kosher salt. Mix and set aside. Next is the star of our show, a meat blend called kofta, which begins by rough chopping an entire white onion, plus about a half cup of parsley. That's the first thing going into our food processor. Now that you've blitzed your onion and parsley, pour it into a length of cheesecloth and wring it out until it's given up all its moisture. You'll probably wring out close to a cup of water from the onion, so squeeze hard. Add that back into your food processor, followed by your spice blend, and finally, your ground meat. You can do a 3-to-1 mix of ground beef to lamb, or just straight ground beef, but be careful, this is gonna smell so good, if you make it at your parents' house, they're gonna think you learned how to cook. Blitz that on high until it starts to look like bean dip, and then set it aside in the fridge. And while you're over there, how about giving us a like and a subscribe? Next, grab some pita bread, slice into halves, and load them up with your kofta. A pound of ground meat should fill 4 pita halves. Make sure to squeeze these down into thin patties so they cook evenly in your oven, which, by the way, you should set to 400 degrees right about now. Once your pitas are stuffed and your oven is preheated, place them on a wire rack and brush them down with oil. Into the 400-degree oven they go for 7 minutes before flipping to cook for 8 more. While that's cooking, make a quick tahini sauce with the juice of half a lemon, a half cup of tahini, a tablespoon or 2 of Greek yogurt, a teaspoon of cumin, a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and some more chopped parsley. Mix to combine. I can't overstate how flavorful and addictive these are.
Damn, that is juicy.
I'll definitely be making them again and soon. Arayes. Unmistakably Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. Today we're making Tom Haverford's favorite dish, Chicky Parm. And for good reason, because I swear, the Italians have the best marketing department when it comes to food. Where else can you take fried chicken, smother it with sauce and cheese like it's Waffle House, and then serve it for $40 to tourists? Luckily, we can make it even better at home. Process. Let's get it. First, you're going to want to prep your protein. I'm brining up some chicken, but my wife is sweating some eggplant with a generous sprinkle of salt. Next, let's make our marinara by throwing some chopped onion and pressed garlic into a well-oiled skillet on medium heat. Let that take on some good color, then add in some whole peeled San Marzano tomatoes, pureed smooth. If you like your marinara to have more chonk, just give the tomatoes a light chop instead. Pour that in and get to stirring. While you stir, add in some parsley, red pepper, sugar, salt, black pepper, and oregano, and let that thicken while it cooks over about 20 minutes. Setting your oven on warm while we prep our proteins for frying. Do 3 pans for dredging. Pan 1 with flour, pan 2 with beaten egg, and pan 3 full of breadcrumbs. For both chicken and eggplant parm, you'll go flour dredge, egg dunk, and then that breadcrumb shake. Heat a neutral oil in a pan to 320 degrees, since the cold meat will bring the oil temp down once you set it in, and we want to maintain 300 degrees throughout. After about 6 minutes for chicken and 4 minutes for eggplant, place them on a sheet pan and top with your marinara and a thick slice of whole milk mozzarella. Into the oven these go on the broiler, which you'll watch like a hawk until the cheese is browned and bubbly. From there, serve them as is or on top of a bed of spaghetti, chicky, and eggy parm. Even Guantanamo will say it's Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. Today we're making shepherd's pie, one of the casserole goats. But I also want to share a story with you. A few days ago, I randomly ran into a pretty big food creator at a local sub shop. Being a pretty little food creator, I was psyched to meet him and hopefully learn a few lessons from a big dog. I asked if I could ask him some questions, and he said yes. But I noticed he was about to start making a review, and I wanted to respect homeboy's time. So once my sando was ready, I got up to go, and I asked the guy if I could get an email or something to reach out with some more questions. His response was, "I'm so busy, I could give you something, but I probably won't respond."
Well, see ya.
The response threw me for a loop, because for as empathetic as I try to be, I just can't imagine ever treating someone that way. Sure, it's easy for me to say that with my less than 1,000 followers, but the whole point of Unemplourmet is to teach people new and better ways to do something. And that's also a big part of who I am. And creators big or small should always look to support one another and also hear out the people nice enough to watch their stuff. So I hope that in the future, no matter how big this channel gets, there's always a healthy dialogue between me and you. Or anyone who wants to learn a little something about cooking, filming, or Simpsons references.
Oh, look at me. I'm making people happy.
I'm adding a link to the full, actually useful version of this video in the comments, so you can learn to make this delicious shepherd's pie. Check it out, and give us a like and a follow while you're at it. Helping each other learn to make great food. Now that's Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. Back in the 90s when I was growing up, the closest thing we had to meal prep was the casserole dish. But make no mistake, a Pyrex full of shepherd's pie was enough to last a week, even for a pack of latchkey kids like us. The key to a good shepherd's pie is really to do everything you can to get the green bean taste out of there. To counter that, let's start things off by charring 2 poblano peppers under your broiler until they're blackened. Remove and turn your oven down to 400. Then, seal up the peppers and let them sweat off their peels over about 10 minutes. Then, scrape off the peel, remove the seeds, chop, and set aside. Next, crumble 2 pounds of 80-20 ground beef into a large skillet or saute pan and add in the chopped poblanos plus about a half a chopped onion. Now, if you're like me, you grew up on Hamburger Helper instructions, which always say to brown the beef and drain. But this is where the helping hand led us wrong. That right there is unrendered beef fat leaking out through the water retained in the beef. In this state, it isn't very tasty, but if you drain it now, you're throwing away strong beef flavor that you're gonna want later. The solution is to keep browning the beef further, stirring often until the water cooks off, the fat renders, and the flavor goes back into the beef. It's gonna take about a half an hour on medium heat, stirring often. Once you see these crispy kernels of dry beef, we're good to go. Set this aside while we get saucy. Add into your saute pan 32 ounces of tomato sauce, 2 tablespoons tomato paste, chili powder, black pepper, paprika, and 4 ounces of unsweetened dark chocolate roughly chopped. Off camera, I also gave this about 2 teaspoons of cumin. Give that a good stir, and then add back in the ground beef. Now, add in a can of drained green beans and some frozen peas and carrots. After you fold all that in, add about a cup or 2 of water to loosen it up some. From here, pour the shepherd's pie into a 9x13 Pyrex dish, and then top with mashed potatoes before adding back into your oven for 20 minutes, or until the peaks of the mashed potatoes are browned. From there, serve and enjoy. Shepherd's pie. Even if it takes all day, it's still Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. Cincinnati Chili, one of the most unique and delicious recipes I've ever encountered. Developed by Mediterranean immigrants just past the turn of the 20th century, this chili is a sweet, spicy, and aromatic delight that will give your taste buds a real slap and tickle.
Slap and pickle.
To make it, you need to start off with a spice blend of chili powder, cinnamon, allspice, and oregano. Then we add half a diced onion and a clove of garlic to medium heat to get some color, before tossing in and toasting the spice blend. Deglaze everything with 3 cups of beef stock, then add 16 ounces of tomato sauce, some unsweetened dark choco, 2 tablespoons tomato paste, splash of apple cider vinegar, splash of Worcestershire, and finally, crumble in 2 pounds of 80-20 ground beef. Stir all that in and let it come together in a simmer for about 45 minutes. This chili is supposed to be soupy, so add a little water if it reduces down too much. While that simmers, boil up some thin spaghetti, throw some kidney beans on the stove, and grate up some cheddar. Once all that's ready, it's time to learn the way of the chili. 3-way, spaghetti, chili, and cheese. 4-way, add onions and beans. 5-way, you add the other thing, making Cincinnati Chili, it's Unemplourmet. This recipe comes together really easily and makes leftover sauce that'll last you for days. Just boil up some more spaghetti, top it your way, and toss in the micro. Cincinnati Chili. Have it any way, it's still Unemplourmet. Welcome back to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. A good old-fashioned hamburger. Nothing beats it, but if there's one thing that brings a tear to my eye, it's a grown man putting a greasy meat puck onto square bread for dinner. You deserve better. Process. Let's get it. First, slice a sheet of parchment paper into quarters and set aside. Next, grab a pound of 80-20 ground beef and carefully crumble it into a loose pile. Loosely, keyword loosely, form the beef into 4 equal-sized balls, which will work out to 4 quarter-pounders. You can season with your preferred spices, but you can't go wrong with garlic powder, paprika, salt, and black pepper. Stash those in the fridge while you prep some thinly sliced onions and tomatoes. For the baconators out there, make a batch by cutting a pack of bacon in half and laying the strips on a wire rack. Throw in a cold oven, then set it to 350. Once it preheats, give it 20 more minutes for bacon perfection. With all our ingredients prepped, set up a grill operation consisting of a hot, flat surface for the cook and a low heat surface for bun warming and burger resting. Now comes the fun part. If you can, get a hold of a burger press. If you can't, a big spatula will get you there. The key is to drop your meat in, shower it with onions, then place a sheet of parchment paper on your tool and mash down to create an oniony burger pancake. Smash patties are super thin, so they cook very fast, maybe a minute per side. Add on the cheese of your choice and cover it with a lid to help melt. From there, build your burger your way and enjoy. Smash Boygas. Now that's Unemplourmet. Welcome to another episode of Unemplourmet, where we take the struggle out of struggle meals. Today we're doing Zuppa Toscana, which is Italian for that soup from Olive Garden. Trust me when I tell you this soup is so good, your girlfriend might just delete her Hinge account. Here's what you're gonna need. Onion, garlic, Italian sausage, bacon, kale, heavy cream, better than bouillon chicken stock, bread, salt and pepper. Process, let's get it. Chop your onion, set it aside. Peel and press 6 cloves of garlic. Garlic cooks down in the soup, so this doesn't have to be perfect. Cube up your bacon. Into a large pot, throw in your spicy Italian sausage and bacon. I try to get Italian sausage ground up as finely as I can for better mouthfeel. Ugh. That phrase has terrible ear feel. Once your sausage is brown and your bacon is rendered, spoon out the meat, leaving the fat in the pot. Now add in your onion and garlic and let it saute in the pot for like 5 minutes. While that's cooking, grab some better than bouillon and make a quick chicken broth in a measuring cup. Use that to deglaze the brown bits stuck to the bottom of the pan. Now we throw the meat back in, plus a few liters of water and as much better than bouillon as it says on the jar. Get that stirred in. Bring all that up to a boil, then reduce down and let it simmer. Add in a splash of heavy cream. While it simmers, get your bag of kale and pick out the stems. This should be pretty familiar to some of you. Once you've got a good bowl's worth, set it aside. Then about 5 minutes before serving, drop in the leaves and mix them around. These are going to be kind of like the noodles in your soup, absorbing all that beautiful flavor and transferring it right to your taste buds. The traditional recipe includes potatoes, but I left them out because it makes the soup super starchy and it ruins the leftovers, which defeats the purpose of a big pot of soup. Serve this with a nice crusty bread you can dip in, and remember, it tastes even better the next day. The prep and cook can be done in less than an hour, and a pot will last you a few days in the fridge, all for less than one Uber Eats order. That's Unemplourmet.